Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is, whenever you're watching. Welcome and thanks for being here. Today, I am joined by Elena Brandner. I have Elena Brandner with me, and she is an athlete and coach. And the reason I invited Elena to be with us today is because I admire her greatly. Everybody knows that I work with female entrepreneurs. I only work with women who are already badasses at what they do. And Elena may or may not know this. I
Hmm.
mean, I talk to her on social media in the DMs a lot, or not a lot, but often. And I greatly admire her. And the reason I greatly admire her is because I met her while we were both part of a group program with a super famous male coach in Miami. And he is super, super, super Elena, I say like super masculine. I don't know what else to describe Wes as.
Very, very much so. That's a good way to put it.
And anyway, why I hired him is not part of this interview, but I will state that I hired him. Elena, were you on the call the day that I was visiting my son at the rehab?
I think so.
Yeah. So I hired Wes because I wanted to like introduce my son to Wes. And my son was worth all the money, except I couldn't trust my son to just give him money to work with Wes. So it was like a sacrificial thing that I did. So, and
Yeah,
actually, it was very helpful to my
yeah.
son to have cross paths with Wes. But anyway, I met you there, and then I started following you, and I saw that you were in a wheelchair, that you'd had a car accident, that
Yeah.
you used to go to therapy, and you still do. And like I would see you and I would be like immediately, like I have goosebumps right now. Immediately I was like, this woman was told that she would never walk again. And
Yeah.
she's doing this and it's every day. She lives alone. I feel sorry for myself on the regular and I don't have these circumstances. What in the world? And immediately was so enamored by your life and your resilience. And for the longest, I've wanted to do this. I've wanted to
Oh,
bring you on so that we could talk about resilience and mindset. And so, anyway, Elena, thank you for being here.
thank you so much for having me, Linda. I'm super excited that we finally were able to connect and that you've brought me on to your little podcast.
My little podcast. Um, Tell me, because all I know is what I see on social media. As of today, the date of this recording is December 12th, 2024.
Yeah.
When were you involved in this car accident? Talk about it. How did it happen? What date? What was the date?
Yeah, no, for sure. So it happened February 7th of 2022. And I I actually was on my way to a doctor's appointment early in the morning. It was like probably like 9:30 in the morning, I think. And I actually don't remember any of it because I don't know. I don't remember any of it, but thankfully there was somebody that came forward that had a dash cam that was heading let's see, I was heading northbound. They were heading southbound, so they had like seen the whole entire accident happen, and so they came forward with the footage, which allowed me to see what happened. And the inference that I can make from watching the video is I was going around a semi, and when I went around it, I ended up trailing behind an SUV. And I drove a lifted Jeep and stuff, but I still couldn't see in front of the SUV. And as the SUV kept going, we were going past the semi, and then all of a sudden the SUV swerved out of the way because there was a stopped vehicle in the fast lane on this major highway. And so what ended up happening was I I also tried doing what the SUV did and swerve into the middle lane, but I couldn't. I didn't have any time to respond, and so I hit the back of this vehicle, and slammed right into it, and then that brought my Jeep up like this into the lane that the semi was in, and the semi then hit my undercarriage, hit me, and when my Jeep landed on its side, my hardtop popped off, and I got ejected out right onto. Look, I could see myself like get it doesn't really look like I got like thrown out. It actually kind of looks like I got pulled out. That's how I looked at it. But I landed right next to the semi, and then the semi jackknifed the whole entire road, and the highway was shut down for quite some time. And the only reason it even got back to my like family and stuff was because one of my friends had driven by, and her husband were in the car, and she looked over and she's like, I think that's Elena's Jeep. And he was like, no, like there's no way. And about 3 weeks prior to that, she asked for my location on my phone to keep tabs on each other, because when we go out and party and stuff, you know, we always want to keep tabs on each other. And I was like, okay. And she went and pinged my phone, and I was right there, and she was like, oh my god, like that is Elena. And so then she made the calls back to home to essentially tell people that that's what happened, or that I was in a really bad accident. And this all happened actually the week of my pharmacy board exam. So I had recently graduated from pharmacy school in May of 2021. And I took some time off because I was really kind of burnt out from the whole. I was just burnt out from doing so much for so long, and I was trying to enjoy some time without not having the responsibilities of being in school and working in the bar. I've been working at. Well, I'm not working anymore, but I was working at a bar for 7 years that I loved so much. I always had so much fun there. I never felt like work or anything, and I just wanted to enjoy some of that time. And then I finally scheduled boards out for February, and then that week, this whole life-altering situation happened.
I was gonna ask you, what was life like before? Because I know your Instagram name is Flow State Recovery.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, did she have like, I thought you were like a physical therapist. When I saw that name,
Oh,
and I thought you had a physical therapy business. So you just said you had graduated and you were waiting to take your exams, for your pharmacy. Um, wh- what else did you do? Like, were you already into fitness, or were
yeah,
like that was part of your lifestyle, fitness?
yeah, yeah. Fitness was my lifestyle. No matter what, I always made sure to go to the gym. Especially in pharmacy school, I always made time. Always made time to go to the gym. And then I was also an athlete all growing up my entire life. So all the things that I did was to get better at the sports that I was playing. And then all of those habits that I created to get better at the sports that I was playing carried into my adult life that have really carried me through this whole entire recovery.
Now, Elena, boom, accident. You don't remember anything till however long you wake up in the hospital and however weeks went by. Tell us a little bit about that when you initially come to, maybe you were intubated. I don't know anything. And
Yeah.
then someone tells you, hey, this is what happened.
Yeah. So I actually never lost consciousness from what I was told. So crazy how the world works in all its small ways. But the paramedic that took care of me that day was actually the mom of a friend of mine. And I was able to take her out to lunch. Maybe it was dinner. It doesn't matter. Take and like hear her whole entire story about the whole entire accident. And she had said that like she had come up and she was like, oh, like this looks like a fatality. And because I was laying face down on the ground on the side of the highway, and she came up and checked my pulse, and I started talking to her, and she had said that the first thing that came out of my mouth was that like I couldn't feel my legs. And which was really crazy to me because one of my biggest fears as a kid growing up was actually losing my legs. Um, yeah, losing the ability of my legs. And so when she told me that, it was just crazy to think that my consciousness was in that realm and in that kind of way, if that makes sense. Um, and so she said that I was like really fine in the ambulance, but I was in and out of like being there with her because I had gotten a concussion. And so, which that's the only head trauma that like I really got, which is absolutely insane. Um,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And she had said that I was really stubborn and wanting to move, but I couldn't move. And she said that my arm was like snapped in half, and that I was trying to move it around, and that like, but then I would be okay, and then I wouldn't be okay. So then when they brought me to the hospital, she handed me off to the nurse, And the nurse actually, the same friend is the girlfriend of that friend, whose mom. It's like all interlinked. It's really crazy. So she said that the face that she gave her was one that she hadn't seen before, meaning that it was really, really bad. And so when I was in the hospital, they ended up medically intubating me, and I was in a coma for 6 days. Yeah, 6 days. So it happened on a Monday, and then I woke up from the coma on a Saturday. And so the first time that I woke up, when they were seeing if I was stable enough to extubate me, I saw my father at the end of my hospital bed. And you know those movies where like people like they like wake up from like like they're in the hospital and they like look around. Like that's literally what it was. It was like I was in a movie, and I'm like, there's no way this is real right now. And I remember telling myself, if I close my eyes, I'm gonna wake up next to my dogs, and this is not gonna be like this isn't gonna be here. Um, and so I closed my eyes, and then the next time that I woke up, they were bringing me to extubation, and I just remember I had the tubes coming out of my mouth. I was really confused because I had no idea what had happened, and again, I thought I was in a really bad dream. And then I was waiting around, and they had said, "Oh, like extubation isn't going to happen for like another 3 hours." And I just remember, obviously, I was like restrained down and stuff, and I just remember like this massive flood of anxiety coming through me and getting really antsy because I was already there for a while, and then they put me back under, and the next time when I woke up, I was actually extubated, and I just remember my now ex-boyfriend, but he was there, and he was like, "Hey, like, do you remember who I am? Like, do you know my name?" And I just, again, I thought I was in a bad dream, and I thought I was still at home. So my initial response was like, "Stop being fucking annoying." And then
So he
uh
was like, "Yeah, she knows me."
yeah, like she's okay, like okay, I guess she's cool. Yeah. And so that was that was like the basically the how I woke up and like what I remember from there. And then the hospital is kind of a blur. Like I was there for 3.5 weeks, and it was it was a lot. There was a lot going on. I was in so much pain in the beginning. People weren't able to touch me. I was like super hypersensitive. It was like pain that I wouldn't even be able to honestly express because it was just like I don't know. I can't. It's like hard to
Can't
express. So it's
explain
like
it.
to the touch. Yeah, it's like to the touch. Like I had to tell people, don't touch me with your fingertips. Like I need you to touch me with your open palms because the pressure of fingertips was brutal.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Um, and
So this was like
then
neurological things, and then you coming to grips with someone telling you, "Hey, you may." They didn't say you may not walk. They said you're not going to walk again.
yeah, like, and it didn't register in my head. So I have a sister. She's been a nurse for a really long time. So thankfully, she was there as an advocate for me because if she hadn't been there, I don't know what would have happened, or how my treatment would have necessarily gone had she not been there. And I also had a really good friend who's also a nurse that was there, and they were working together, like making sure that the whole team was doing what they needed to do. Um, and my sister told me that she had said several times that like I'm paralyzed and like I'm not able to walk, but I was so doped up, like nothing was registering. And about, I think it was my last week there, they did an Asia test with me. So a doctor, I think Dr. Garcia was her name. She brought me into a separate room, and an Asia test is where um, they like prick your skin in certain areas, and then they to see about sensation wise, based off of your dermatomes. So like all of your vertebrae are linked to certain parts of your body or innervate to certain parts of your body. And so based off of what you can feel, they can then decipher what level your injury is actually at to to make an assessment in that kind of way. And so it goes based off of pricks with like a needle or cotton swab type thing to see what you can feel. And then they ask you to do the motor side of it, which is your motor pathways, asking you to, can you move like your finger, your toes, or can you bring your knee to your chest? And when she asked me to bring my knee to my chest, I couldn't do it. And that's kind of when this big black cloud started forming over my head, because that's when it really hit me that, whoa, I actually can't move my legs. And so from there, again, it still didn't register that like I wasn't able to walk again. I asked every single physical therapist that I had, every OT person, like, what are the chances that I'm going to walk out of here? And none of them said like that it wasn't going to happen, but none of them said that it was going to happen. And then when I was in rehab, I was told when I finally I was kind of more with it and stuff at that point, I was told that the doctors had said that I wasn't ever going to walk again. And I'm like, what? And I was like, there's no way that that's possible. And I honestly just never accepted that that was my fate. And so it's been really grind time since then, and just nonstop. It really has been nonstop. We're approaching the 3-year mark is coming up in 2 months.
Yes, because so then I meet you. I just go to your Instagram and I basically piece all of this together because it's not like you're telling the story in your stories every day. But what I see is you at therapy, you like sitting on a bike with all of this equipment on, like oxygen stuff and like I don't know, maybe stuff attached.
It's electric stimulation to
Yeah,
help
so
like
there's like stuff attached to your legs, and you're like pedaling, and I'm like, I'm so proud. Like I get goosebumps. I literally cry when I see your stories. And then all of a sudden, I'm not on Instagram for a while. And then I come back and you are freaking walking with your, what are those, like crutches?
Arm crutches. Yeah.
What? I was like, what? What? Like, please. Okay, before we keep going, I have this question, or I want to say this, and then I want your take on it. A lot of people ask me, because I became homeless when my ex-husband changed the locks to our doors. I slept in my car. I struggled financially a lot, and I started from the bottom. Now I'm here. And people say to me all the time, Linda, what was the number one thing that you did? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. You know, like people think I was like this top 1% person that had all the answers and magically activated it and it worked. Like while I was going through the shit, I felt very hopeless. I wasn't like thinking positively, like, whoa, yeah. I wasn't writing affirmations. I was like in the shithole.
Yeah, I feel that.
When people ask me that, I'm like, I don't know, except I just was not, like you said, I wasn't going to accept that as my fate. Like I was created for more. I just knew that somehow, some way I would figure this out, but it's not because I had a specific strategy. Point 1, point 2, point 3. And when I did all of those things in the perfect recipe, my life took off and resiliency was always in me. I didn't even fucking know I was resilient.
Same.
Right? Okay, great. So now looking back, I know people ask you all the time, what has pushed you through? But now that you can look back even just on 3 years, what are some of the things that now you can say, oh, wow, I know this intentionally. I didn't know that I was doing it then, but now when I look back, I know that this was intentional. Was it a mindset? Was it a support system? Like, what was it for you? Because like you said, you didn't know you were resilient, but you did say, I was like, not going to accept that as my fate.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. And honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is just God. I shouldn't have survived that day, and I did. And the fact that he kept me alive with the fact that my injuries were only what they were, and they weren't anything more, because they could have been much worse. I could have been a vegetable. I did snap my neck. I mean, I could have died, but I did snap my neck at, C2, which is the second vertebrae, I would have been nothing, and so I just had to remind myself, like, okay, like I'm alive and there's a reason I'm alive, and I have to continue like pushing forward. And I attribute really God to all of the things that I've been provided to be able to get me to where I'm at in my recovery. And if I stay in that mindset of, if he continues providing, then I will see the other side of this, and he continues providing in ways that, you watch documentaries and you watch movies and you're like, wow, like that's amazing that person like was able to get through XYZ, and then here I am, like, whoa, like that, like I'm that person now, and I wouldn't be able to do it unless I had something bigger on my side, and that's what I kind of hold, like, really, that's what I hold close to.
Elena, that's so beautiful, right? Because I grew up in church with super religious parents. They were preachers and all that, and so I have a strong faith,
Mhm.
and I also have like a lot of religious wounding. There was a lot of decisions that they made for my life that had nothing to do with it being the best decision for their daughter, but like, what is the church gonna say? So I have like a
Yeah.
lot of little like trauma around that. But I'm not an atheist just because I didn't like how my parents raised me in the church. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I love that you have this faith. And I'm going to share this, and I don't know if maybe you have something similar, but in my life, growing up, I had even though when people ask me, what is the thing that you did? And I was like, I don't know what I did. There's this thing called subconscious competence. There are things that we're very good at. There are skills that we already have. We don't know we have them because we use them in our everyday life. So for me, I had a pattern of going through like a lot of crisis stuff as a child that I didn't think was crisis because it was my normal
It was just your
life,
life. Yeah.
right? So no one said, "Hey, that was trauma." So I
Yeah.
already had a pattern of surviving hard shit,
Yeah.
right? So I had like a mental toughness that I didn't even know was called mental toughness.
Yeah.
Right. The resiliency. I had already achieved really difficult things in my previous life. When I was in my early 30s, I had joined a multi-level marketing company and I reached high levels of leadership, earning free cars. And like only 1% of people who ever join that company do that. I did it like it seemed effortlessly in my 30s, but it wasn't effortlessly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you were an athlete. Your
Mhm.
body looked a certain way. You like to strength train, and there's a level of mental discipline that I love studying the mindset of athletes, the mindsets of Navy SEALs, which is one of the reasons why I was attracted to Wes, because he's
Mhm.
just, he's just always like the mental toughness.
Yeah.
And I think anyone to be able to survive in life, they need, specifically women, they need the mental and emotional intelligence, that mental resilience that you actually already had,
Yeah.
but you didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like
I did it.
like,
I didn't know that.
I'm an athlete. I just play sports. I just, I lift weights.
Yeah.
But
But the way
but
that translates into other things in life, that's where that's what I've really learned is, like, we go to the weight room and we throw down weight and we push ourselves and we push ourselves out of our comfort zones, and then the way that translates into the real world, it's like the whole ice bath thing, right? Like, people go into ice baths and then they have to like fight the thing, the voice inside that's like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, and then you still sit in there and you still sit in there. It's like, yeah, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, and then the time goes up and you're like, yeah, I did it. That's how, then when it comes into the real world, your nervous system's prepped to be able to handle the stressors that come through because you've prepped it to do hard things. So now when hard things comes, it's like, oh, this is okay. Like we know what we know what we have to do to be able to get to where we want to go.
yes, exactly. So um all right, so let's talk about back to like the electrical things they say, like
Mhm.
how when you started going to therapy, knowing that someone told you, hey, the doctor said you're never going to walk again, and now you're in therapy with these things on your legs and trying to go, and what's going through your mind at those points at the very beginning of this therapy?
Um, I have to actually think about that. I just remember, I mean, there was a lot of like sadness in the beginning, or a lot of like, is this even worth it? And I mean, there's still times where I'm like, is this even worth it? I mean, now not so much, but like, every once in a while, there's still that the thing that pops up. It's like, but in the beginning, it was really painful in the beginning, and I didn't. Mind you, I didn't have weight to lose, so I was like 140 pounds the day of the accident, and I was very lean and muscular, and so I didn't have weight to lose. And when I came home from the hospital from rehab, so it was about a 6.5 week from the time of the accident to the time I got home, I lost 35 pounds, and I was like 103 pounds, I think, skin and bones. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, it was really sad. And therapy, it was definitely hard in the beginning because again, like you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, whoa, like this isn't where I was like 7, 8 weeks ago, you know? And then to be able to have, you know, you're squatting 225 pounds to not even being able to stand on your 2 feet. There's a lot of like mental barriers that I really had to work through. And thankfully I had good friends around me, that, you know, supported me and kept like telling me like, you know, you're putting all of this work in, like it's going to pay off. Like you have to just keep going. And so in the beginning, I think it was really just like working through the pain of like all of it, the emotional pain, the really the physical pain, because granted, losing all of that weight, I was skin and bones. And so sitting down, the irony of sitting down but being in pain all day, it was rough because I was honestly just sitting on my sit bones. And the it like I was in a lot of tears, like the most of the day. Like I could only sit for like an hour or so until I had to go lay down. And then to be somebody that never sat down before the accident to now be sitting all the time, it was all of these things that I was like continuously working through, trying to, you know, see the other side of it. And you know, I hired a coach at the 1 year mark who I still talk to regularly, um, and she helped me, you know, shape my perspective around like the things that were happening. And
A life
uh,
coach?
yeah, yeah, and which that helped me out a lot as far as how to like continue, like having somebody in my corner to like help me like and like with my thought process as my days go on. So if negative thoughts came through, it's like, okay, like why are these here? Why am I feeling this? And then, you know, reverting, trying to intervene so that doesn't become like a thought pattern. And then it was really my whole thing was like, as long as I can get some muscle put back on me, like I'm gonna be okay. Like, so I remember asking my neuro team like, hey, like I was still in a C collar. I was actually in a motorized wheelchair in the beginning, and I had said like, can I lift weights? And they were like, yeah, you can lift weights. So I said okay, and I started lifting weights in my garage at the time. And I mean, you go from lifting, you know, a lot of weight to now lifting 2 pound weights. I mean, it's very humbling. It was a very humbling experience. And I, but I just continued persevering and pressing on. And I dabbled into some supplements and things that would help aid in my recovery to help me build muscle, because it was a matter of gaining, well, it was the one gaining function back, but also gaining muscle back, and just being able to feel like I felt like a piece of paper for the longest time, where I was just floating around, and there wasn't any sustenance to me. I wasn't firm or stable, or I didn't feel like I just didn't feel stable in really, I guess, my own skin is what you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, then I didn't start the rehab place that I go to now. I didn't start going there until, let's see, about 2.5 months post accident. So those 2.5 months was just a lot of figuring out like what to do, how to do it, like where do we go. I mean, it's really crazy. And then having to show up to all these doctor's appointments all the time, and it was like, wow, like this is how people live. Like people live and like go to doctor's appointments all the time, and then having to fill out medical history that
Every time.
I've never had to do that. And so now I'm sitting there and actually like I need to go early because I got to fill out all of this paperwork. And then it just made me think like, wow, like this can't be my life forever. Like there's no way I'm going to, like, I mean, there was days and days I had to hire a caregiver. I had to have somebody like drive me around because I lost my driving. You know, I wasn't able to drive for a really long time. And so there was just a lot going on. And then finally, my physical therapist that I had, her name is Denny. She was like, I think you would be a really good fit for this place called Core, which is the Center of Recovery and Exercise. And it's the only one, it's really the only one in the world. And it's an hour from my house. And she's like, I think you should go there. And my dad went and checked it out, and he came back and he looked at me. He's like, that's the place you have to go. And so I went there, and I've been there for the last 2.5 years. I started off with 3 days a week, and now I'm there 4 days a week. And we've all been on this ride together. They've been by my side through all of it, and they've really made a major impact in my life. And I say thank you to them all the time, and they're like, no, look, we're just here to help facilitate and like give you the space to do it. And I'm like, you guys do way more than that.
Like, I watch your videos, like I watch your snippets of, that you place in your stories, and I literally cry, like for real cry. Happy tears because I'm a mom, because I'm a woman, because how dare I complain about whatever the hell I'm complaining about, all of these things. Because for the people that are watching, right, I work with women that are entrepreneurs, and oftentimes the women that come to me, they're strong women. And every woman that's strong became that way. She had to learn to survive or pick up the slack for whatever man she chose to have kids with, who's not doing what he's supposed to do. And women overcome things, and abuse and all sorts of things. And so women, there are many, many, many women around us, or that we know, or we might be her ourselves, who are strong. But when a woman learns to turn that strength into personal power, then there's no roughness about her. There's no, she's not a bitch. She's just someone who is confident. She doesn't have to say a word. She steps into a room, and that power is here. Confidence, resiliency, like just the way you stand. And it's not about wearing luxury brands or a dress or shoes. It's just a stance, a way about that woman. And I know that you were someone that I wanted to have on the podcast, because you embody personal power, right?
Thank you.
We spoke already. No, for real. And you're welcome, but that's what you are. For the people that are listening and watching, we spoke, all the first part of this conversation has been about mindset and resilience. Like, how does she cultivate the mindset to challenge what seemed impossible? Like, she was not supposed to be walking. We talked about fear. How does she face it? How was faith a factor in her recovery? Beliefs that she had to let go. And because she said, hey, it's not that I don't have limiting beliefs or fear along this journey. She wondered many times, is this even worth it? Like, what am I doing? And so, we talked about her practical steps, like what are things that she did, just practical. And she spoke about how important her friend who was a nurse, her sister, all these people that were just kind of placed in her path, and then finding out about CORE and the people there being so supportive. Now that you know these things, how has this journey changed the way you see yourself? Are you still going to pursue pharmacy, or what's next?
It definitely, I feel like we try to find purpose in the things that happen to us, and we try to make sense of what has happened, because some things you just are just so out of left field that you're like, what the fuck? And the thing was when I was in pharmacy school, I had a little voice in me that kept saying, like, I don't think this is what you're supposed to be doing. And I almost quit like 3 times. But I decided to keep going because I was already in a bunch of student loan debt, and I might as well have just finished doing. And the back of my mind was like, at least I have this, and like at least I'll have this to fall back on in the case that, like, if I needed to. And so then the accident happened, and it was right before the board exam, and it just made me think, like, okay, maybe I am getting redirected into some place that I'm actually supposed to go. Because I had written on my board, like in pharmacy school, like actually 2022, I was planning on becoming like a life coach on top of being a pharmacist. And so it kind of pushed me, I don't know, kind of made me think like maybe this underlying feeling I've had is like from being wanting to be a coach the majority of my life, whether it was like an athletic coach or a coach that actually, served people in a different way. um, I thought, okay, maybe, well, you know, I never really had a story, right? I mean, I had, like, we have a story, but not a story where it's not a story that I have now, where, like, careful what you wish for kind of thing. Because
Right.
now, then I realized, like, whoa, like, I actually kind of have a story now. And I didn't realize how many people I was impacting, like, just by sharing my story, like the random people that would message me and tell me, like, hey, I really needed that. Or the people in my hometown that like that come up to me all the time, or that message me or text me, and they're like, because of you, like, I went to the gym today, like I didn't want to, but I thought about you. And that, and I'm letting you know that you're doing a lot of things that I don't think you're realizing that you're doing. And it made me realize, like, whoa, maybe I should think about, actually redirecting my whole entire path onto something that it seems more aligned with, like, what my, spirit, soul, however you want to put it, is actually meant to do, as far as, living out this human experience. And so I decided to, I think I'm going to step into, I'm not thinking, but I am stepping into that. And I am taking this whole entire journey, like, extremely seriously, because of the progress I have made. And it has made me see myself in a different view. People were always like, in the beginning, well, you're Elena, like, you're going to get through this. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't know what that means. Like, I was just a chick that, like, I grew from the time, like, elementary school all the way to high school. I grew up in the same place. I've built little small communities, all, like, in all the little areas that I worked in. So I was a lifeguard on the beach for 4 years. So I had a community there. I had the community in the school system because I kept in touch with, like, all of my teachers throughout the years. I worked in hospitality for 7 years. So I had a community in that. And then, all these people saying, like, realizing what I didn't even realize that I had. And they kept just reminding me, like, you're Elena, like, you've always been able to do the things that you say that you're going to do. And it made me just, like, I then, once I started going into this recovery and started actually seeing progress and doing what they said that I wasn't going to be able to do, I was like, whoa, I guess I am that person. Like, I am that person that can pull off things that I didn't realize I could pull off.
Hmm. I want to ask you this totally personal.
Yeah.
I don't know what your answer is going to be. But whenever people say that to me all the time, like, I almost feel like crying right now. They're like, "Well, you're Linda. Like, of course you're going to figure it out." And I'm like, "I am a person.
Yeah.
I'm not superhuman. Like, you talk about me like I have a super cape. I'm fucking frustrated. I'm drowning here. I'm actually scared. I'm angry."
Yeah.
Did you ever when people told you that, did you ever feel like angry, that like, what? Because I heard you say, well, I didn't know what that means. I'm Elena. What's that mean? Did it ever kind of piss you off, or no?
No, I don't. I can't say that it pissed me off. Like, it just made me, like, really think. Like, it made me question what I actually thought about myself,
Mm,
like
that,
my capabilities.
that's so great, because I didn't question my capabilities. I just become mad. Like, I'm just a person. Check on me. Don't think that I'm strong all the time.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
need you to
I
call
can
me.
see that. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I definitely didn't try. Like, I tried to not really be angry. I had a friend when I was in rehab ask me, like, are you angry about what happened? And that was still when it was really, really fresh. Again, still doped up, and, all these things. But my initial response was like, no, how could I be angry? Because I God saved me. I survived, and, like, how can I be upset that He allowed me to still be here? And that was so. As far as, I really try not to be angry in regards to the whole thing.
I love it. I
But
see your heart.
um,
I I see your heart. Like, when people say, "Oh, money doesn't make you a bad person, it makes you more of what you are." Different circumstances in life don't make us bitter. They just make us more of what we are. If you're going to be bitter, you were a bitter motherfucker before anyway.
yeah,
You were a Grinch, you were a Scrooge,
yeah,
before anyway.
yeah.
But
Which
you
then makes
weren't.
you think the reason that you're going through what you're going through is to make you not be that kind of person, right? Like,
Right. No, I
yeah.
love that. I love it. All right. Um I mean, I don't know who could listen to this interview and not feel inspired, but what message, because I know that you're an athlete and a coach, and you're going into that direction of people can hire you for their personal fitness, including nutrition and mindset, like life coaching. What message uh would you want to say, that, like, in case anybody missed it in this conversation, what do you want to say that's very direct and intentional to women who feel like my circumstances are limiting me, or I'm drowning in this circumstance? What would you want to say to those women directly and intentionally right now?
Perspective is your superpower.
Mhm.
And the more that you learn how to use perspective on your side, the easier the reality that you are craving and yearning for will come to fruition.
Mhm. Perspective.
I
Love
think
that.
I think perspective is an underrated thing that people don't really talk a lot about. Um, because I mean, I've had some hard perspectives like shot in my face because of my whole situation, right? And sometimes they're really hard to hear, especially when you're extremely down and low. Um, Perspective is always the higher road taken of thought, right? And so the more that we can train ourselves to take the higher road of thought, the more at ease we can really feel. And don't get me wrong, it is hard to choose the higher road, but that's where the work is. And the more that you take the higher road, the easier it's going to be down the line. I've had perspectives in my face, in the beginning. I like, obviously was super sad. I'd cry all the time and stuff. And I had the perspective of like, it could have been worse. Right. And like, that's a hard pill to swallow. Like, yeah, but it's true. It totally could have been worse. And like, what can I complain about? I go to rehab and I see people that are, vegetables, or that are paralyzed from the neck down, or that are in, and young kids too. Right. Like people, and like, I'm thinking 25, oh my God, I haven't even lived my whole entire life, cause that's when the accident happened. Um, here there are people who, at 17 years old, something happened to them, or the people that are born with something, right? And they don't even get to live life to the way that I've lived life for the past 25 years, or
Mhm.
even people like, yeah, like I might be in a wheelchair and like learning how to walk again and stuff. And there are people who are in wheelchairs wishing they could be where I'm at. Right. And so these are all extremely hard pills to swallow. And like again, smacking perspective in the face, but like people have to hear that. And the more that you're around people that can actually lay that out for you, then that mental toughness actually gets built. And where you can actually be like, wow, like somebody does have it way harder than me right now, and like, what am I bitching about?
Yeah. I call those reframes, right? It's the same thing,
Yeah.
like change your perspective. Let me give you some insight on how I see that. Or I like to tell my clients, can I share with you how I am experiencing you right now? Like you're
Yeah.
whining, or you're acting like a victim. Well, how could I not be a victim? Look what happened to me. No, I get that. We're not denying that this awful
Yeah,
thing
we're
didn't
not
happen.
denying that it's shitty. We're not denying that it's not awful. But
Right.
again,
We're
like,
not
how do we get to the other side of it?
right. We're not invalidating you or gaslighting you. No, that didn't happen. You know,
Yeah.
no, we know it happened. you know.
Yeah.
So before we turned the camera on, before we were recording, we were talking about like the people at the physical therapy place who may have seen you cry, or may have seen you come in on a day where your mind wasn't there, and they literally in their heart they felt you and they wanted to like let you off the hook that day, but they were like, no, we're pushing you
Yeah.
today because we know this. And I know that's hard for them to do.
Yeah.
And you're so grateful that they didn't come into the pity party with you.
Yeah, I mean, we can fall to like the pity parties of people and let them succumb to the shitty situations that they're in, or we can be somebody that helps them rise to the other side of the situation. And yeah, sometimes being that person is really hard, but at the end of the day, like I think you'd be doing more of a disservice by pitying with somebody versus doing the opposite of that. I think tough love is needed. I think it's something that, all of this like softness that's happening, I think is doing a big disservice to people because again, shit happens in everybody's life. Like that's one thing that life promises, is that it's gonna hit the fan at some point and you gotta figure it out. And so you're either prepared to figure it out or you're not. And at that point it's choices, right?
It's
It's all based off of
choices.
choice.
Now, we're almost done. I got two more questions for you.
Yeah.
I always tell my clients, not because I made this up, but because this is true. Um, this version of me, I'm 52 years old. I am living the life that I could only have dreamt of some years ago. When I was broke and on food stamps and on unemployment, this version of me already existed. I just hadn't tapped into her. And I know that there's a version of me at 60, there's an 80-year-old version of me. And even though I don't have a crystal ball or can particularly know exactly, I can tap now at 52. I can ask 70-year-old version of me, hey, what do I need to know now at 52 to get to you? Because 70-year-old version of me lives a different life and has different things that are important to her and has made a bigger impact and has a legacy. Now that I've shared my future self philosophy with you, this version of you existed the day that that Jeep flipped over, but you didn't know that.
Right.
But now that you're here, if this version of you could go back to the day where you had the Asia test and the doctor asked you to lift your leg and you couldn't, and that's when you realized, and that black cloud came over you. Imagine if this version of you, December 12th, 2024, she's driving, she's walking, she could walk in and say to the doctor, leave me alone with her for a second. What would you say to you?
I think I would say you already know what to do.
No.
I think that's what I would say. And I like that you bring up future self, because I heard something the other day, and it was do not outsource pain to your future self. Please make them happy. Um, and that stuck with me because I think about my little self a lot, and I think about, like, I was the little kid that, like, I wanted to be good at every single sport that I played. And so I would wake up early, and I remember I would do like push-ups, I would jump rope, I would go run down to the beach, and then all before school started type of thing, just so that, like, that was me. And I am in awe of that little kid, because that drive, that ambition, all of those little, like, qualities that I adopted as a little kid have now shined through as to what's happening in my recovery and how I'm even taking this recovery. And so yeah, I think I would tell them, like, you already know what to do, and like God's gonna see you through to the end of it,
I
because
love it.
he has 100% provided in ways for me that I get teary eyed talking about it every time, because it blows my mind every single time. Like, what it makes me question, what do I have to have been blessed with the opportunity that I've been given? Like, what did I bring into this world that he has allowed me to be able to carry out what's ahead?
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know what you were going to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
What's next? How can people find you? How can they support you? Tell them where to go. Tell us.
Yeah. I'm on Instagram. That's really where I spend most of my time and where I, post most of my story. My Instagram is flow_state_recovery. So FLO state_recovery. And yeah, if anybody needs help reaching their fitness goals or reaching some mindset goals or anything in that regard, and you keep finding yourself having excuse after excuse, I am somebody that can keep you accountable and that can 100% help you attain those goals in all avenues, especially if it's just trying to keep a level head, especially in situations that tend to, throw us off path.
Amen. And I'm going to tell you this. If you're watching this, I know you're watching or you're listening on the podcast. I'm telling you right now, if you've been inspired by Elena and you feel like you need to find out more and work with her, you better go hire her right now, because she has me in her corner, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
let her undercharge herself. I'm not going to let her not make the money that she's destined to make. And yeah, so Elena, I always tell my clients, tell people that you're working with Linda and that they better take you up on your prices now, because I am about to raise those prices.
Yeah.
Make me the
Love you,
bad guy.
Linda. Love
I
you,
love
Linda.
being the bad guy. Just blame me. You know,
It's true.
I didn't do it. My coach did. You know, like
Yeah. She made me do it.
she made me do it. I want to do it for free, but she wants me to charge you 10,000, and I have to do it because I do what my coach says.
Yeah.
You know, I love it. Elena, thank you so much for giving me your time today, giving us your time today. Appreciate
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank
And
you so
until next time, everyone,
Yes,
have a
thank you
blessed
so
day.
much. Yeah.
Yep.